Cape Peninsula could have been an island by itself if it was not for the Cape Flats connecting it to the mainland of the African continent. Our plan is to drive around the Cape Peninsula from Cape Town to Simonstown and then Cape Point, returning up to Slankop Lighthouse, Hout Bay and then back to Cape Town. In this episode, we will drive from our home in Cape Town to Simonstown, visiting places like the Rhodes Memorial and Kalk Bay on the way. So let's start with the Rhodes Memorial overlooking the Cape Flats and Winelands. We're here at the Rhodes Memorial Temple. The Rhodes Memorial is a structure that was built in 1912 on the slopes of Devil's Peak. It was designed and built by Sir Herbert Baker in remembrance of Cecil John Rhodes, who lived between the years of 1853 to the year 1902. This British-born man, who arrived on Cape soil at the tender age of 17, went on to become the Prime Minister of the Cape Colony. The structure has 49 steps, one for each year that Rhodes lived. On each side of the steps are 4 lion statues, and at the bottom of the steps is a bronzed horseman shading his eyes from the sun as he looks out over the Cape Town northern suburbs. Going up the steps, you will arrive to the statue of a man leaning his head on his right hand. This bronze bust of Rhodes rests on a pedestal featuring a poem written by his close friend Rudyard Kipling, and the statue of a physical energy at the base of the steps was commissioned as a tribute to Rhodes' drive and determination. The invasion of the Cape Colony, also known as the Battle of Muizenberg, was a small but significant military affair that began in June 1795 and ended 3 months later with the British occupation of the Cape. Thus began the period of British control of the Cape and subsequently much of southern Africa. A small British fleet arrived in False Bay July 1795 and anchored in Simon's Bay. After unsuccessfully negotiating with the Dutch to protect the Cape from their enemies, the British landed a small army of 1,400 men and began to march towards Cape Town. The column marched along the coastal road from Simonstown to Kalk Bay towards Muizenberg. Sailing along the coast next to the soldiers were 4 warships of the Royal Navy. At Kalk Bay, the Dutch had 1 cannon. The HMS America fired one of her cannons and the Dutch retreated to their fort outside of Muizenberg. At that fort, 800 Dutch soldiers waited for the British. They were lightly armed but had a few cannons pointed towards the Simonstown road. To their surprise, the 4 warships anchored alongside and began firing barrages of cannonballs towards them. There was no way that the Dutch could reply effectively, and within an hour they had retreated around the corner to Zandvlei. The fighting continued for some weeks, pushing the Dutch slowly back to Wynberg Hill, where a stalemate was reached. In early September, a much larger British force arrived, and with that the Dutch surrendered the Cape. Few lives were lost in this war. It is amazing when you drive down these roads and you know a little bit more about the historical value and the things that happened here. It kind of changes your perspective on the area and the mountains and the ocean and the buildings there. Kalk Bay's name originated from the Dutch term chalk, and this derives from the vast deposits of mussel shells found there, which the early settlers burned to make lime for construction. In 1795, the Dutch located a small military outpost here, and after 1806, it began to flourish as a fishing village and a whaling station. During the 1860s, it became popular as a seaside resort and watering place. Lying here on the docks, bathing in the sun, not a care in the world. Now that's relaxed right there. Today, the village has once again changed its character, and although the harbour and fishing still operates at low key, the village has become the centre of antiques, art, and many outstanding restaurants who, with exceptional food, maintain the unique and special character of this historical harbour village. From Kalk Bay, we continue towards our next stop, Simonstown. Almost in Simonstown. There's an accident, and because of the road, we sat there for quite a while. First thing. Second thing, then we had to turn around because they couldn't fix it. And now we're on a back route trying to go around. And first we get roadworks, so we stop. And now we're coming up this hill into an area that I've never been. And it looks dodgy, kind of. And now we've got this small little truck in front of us, and it cannot get up the hill. It's like, what a day. Oh, it's turning off. Let's go. Okay. Simonstown, named for Governor Simon van der Stel, was a Dutch naval anchorage from 1741, and its harbour served as a refuge for merchant ships and whalers. In 1814, it became headquarters of the British South Atlantic Naval Squadron, and in 1957, the naval facilities was transferred to the Republic of South Africa. The port, whose operations were considerably expanded in the 1970s, is South Africa's principal naval base. The original Simonstown aerial ropeway, built in 1903, swung both supplies and people through the air between the West Dockyard and the Royal Navy Hospital and Sanatorium up on Red Hill. A series of 17 wooden pylons supported the ropeway system that passed over the St. George's Street up the mountain. One thing that you cannot miss in the heart of town is the statue of able seaman Just Nuisance that continues to capture the hearts and imagination of visitors to Simonstown. He was a very friendly dog who was loved by the sailors. He started following them around and was then led to the naval base and dockyards. He eventually strolled onto some of the ships moored alongside, with the HMS Neptune being one of his favorite vessels. His preferred spot was to lie on the deck on the barrow at the top of the gangplank. No one could easily get past him as he was a huge dog and it was very difficult to get him to move. The sailors would say, "You're just a nuisance," and that's how he got his name, Just Nuisance. He also loved traveling on the trains running from Simonstown towards the inland, but when he got in trouble because of that, it was considered to put him down. Many letters were written to the Commander-in-Chief of the Navy at that time. After much thought, he decided to enlist him into the Royal Navy. Not only would this brave act save Just Nuisance, but it would also raise his profile almost overnight, and he would become one of the world's most famous dogs. It was a wonderful, simple solution to his love for train hopping. A volunteer enlisting during the war was entitled to a free pass on the train. There is much more to his story, so remember to check it out when you're visiting Simonstown next time.